The man was pinned to his knees by me. His long legs bent, but his back still held straight. He looked especially defiant. Just thinking about how this man had blocked my path to advancement made me furious. 3 days ago, I'd finally managed to rise to the position of second in command under a gang boss. I should have been making my mark in front of the boss, doing what I was meant to do, playing the loyal follower to eventually earn the top spot. But then, my cousin got drunk and sent dozens of 1-minute voice messages in the family group chat, complaining that she'd been mistreated at school. My mom couldn't stay calm after that. She had always wished for a daughter, but it never happened. So she treated my cousin like she was more important than her own son, me. That night, she didn't care I was asleep. She called me right away and told me to handle the situation for my cousin. Since Mom gave the order, I had no choice but to set everything aside for now. The more I thought about it, the angrier I got. I leaned down and tapped his face twice with my hand. Hey, you know who I am. I'm the second in command of Jiangxing's biggest gang. You really messed with my sister's pride. Now you've stepped into a whole different league. The man kept his head down silently, as if he didn't realize the danger he was in. He let out a strange chuckle after hearing my words. He lifted his face and locked eyes with me, the mockery in his gaze unmistakable. The face before me had sharp features and dark eyes like ink. My hand, frozen mid-air, stayed there. My threat was cut off in my throat. I can't really blame myself for noticing. He just happens to be that strikingly handsome. My heart skipped a beat in an instant, but mindful of my public image as someone unshakably straight, I muttered softly, "How about trying to win me over? Maybe I will let you off the hook." Before he could react, a sharp cry rang out behind me. "Bro, what are you doing?" I turned around to see my cousin staring at me in shock. From her perspective, our actions were definitely a bit too close for comfort. I quickly pulled back, straightened up, and tried to play it cool. "Didn't you say online that someone was bullying you? That's why Mom dragged me into helping you settle things. But you picked the wrong person." I was stunned for a moment. I got the wrong guy. The guy in a white shirt, the one who looks like he's always chasing after someone. She looked at me with frustration, pointing in a direction. Following her finger, I saw a back view of someone else also wearing a white shirt, running away in haste, probably sensing our gaze. He didn't even turn around. He vanished in a flash, as if he had fire wheels under his feet. My cousin stomped her foot hard a few times. "You're kidding, right? A guy and a hot guy are completely different." She turned her head and gave Martin a sly glance. Then she quickly looked back, wearing a dreamy expression. Besides, if it were Martin, I'd actually be okay with him bossing me around. "Goodness, you just said that so boldly?" I couldn't help but twitch my lips, momentarily at a loss for words. She crept close to my ear and whispered softly, "Hey brother, he's the school bully, and I heard he's the son of a major gang boss in Jiangxing. Did you really just punch him? Are we gonna get in trouble?" Wait, you said who's his father?" I must have suddenly gained some foreign bloodline awareness. Otherwise, how could I suddenly not understand what she was saying in Chinese? My cousin seemed completely unaware, just blinking her innocent eyes and repeating it to me again. "The boss's son of the Jiangcheng gang." I instinctively swallowed, my voice trembling slightly. Even the hand reaching for the guy trailing beside me trembled uncontrollably as I nervously asked, Oliver, how many gangs are there in Jiangxing again?" Oliver didn't notice anything unusual about me at all. Instead, he sounded incredibly proud and shouted out, "Jiang, are you kidding? There's only one gang in Jiang City. Ours. Yeah, just the one under my dad's command." A chilling voice came from behind, making me jump in surprise. That's when it finally clicked. Now I understood the meaning behind his laugh earlier. Trying to act tough right in front of the real boss. I could feel my legs growing a little wobbly again. Last time, it was because Martin looked so handsome. This time, it was pure nerves and fear. I forced a smile and managed to get rid of my cousin and the two young followers. Once they were far enough, I looked up and locked eyes with a pair of amused, Unreadable stares. I dropped to my knees without hesitation and admitted my mistake. Martin stepped forward, lowering himself slowly toward me. The space between us closed sharply, and as he spoke, our faces were almost touching. "Tell me how I should win your favor? How about this? Is that okay?" The scene was incredibly tempting, but all I could think of were two big words: disaster. Everyone in the gang knows our boss is deeply devoted to his son. He always talks about his son, saying things like, "My son does this," or "My son did that." If he found out I was messing with his only child, I snapped back to reality instantly and dropped to my knees again. Grabbing Martin's leg, I kept begging and pleading, hoping to stir even a small sense of mercy. "Sir, I've been good. I'm truly sorry. Boss is so strongly against anything like this. Please don't let him know I'm gay. This would be such a mess." I kept my head down, and when Martin didn't respond, I cried even more sincerely. "Turns out, you really shouldn't try to show off. Look, what do you know? The consequences are right here." Martin spoke in a relaxed tone. "I can certainly keep this from my dad, but I've been needing someone around lately to help out." His words were just enough for me to understand right away. I quickly spoke up in response. "Relax. As long as the boss doesn't find out about this, I'll do whatever you ask from now on." Martin's lips curled into a small smile, and for a brief moment, there was a hint of satisfaction in his eyes. But I was too caught up in the joy of briefly saving my position as second in command to notice anything else. After that day, Martin and I exchanged contact information. I had been quietly relieved that everything had worked out so easily, only to realize later that Martin was still quite demanding. Any little thing, and Martin would send me a message. If I didn't reply within 3 seconds, I'd get a call from him. A second ago, I was with a group of followers firmly settling things with some troublemakers. The next moment, an urgent ringtone cut through the air. "I want to fly forward. I'm waiting for love." The tense atmosphere instantly faded, and one of my followers couldn't help but snicker behind me. I shot him a sharp glare. On the outside I was tough. On the inside, I felt utterly embarrassed. This is so embarrassing. I'm never going to like Little Bird Legend again. I quickly pulled out my phone, ready to give the caller a piece of my mind. But then I saw the caller ID Martin. Fine, I can't even curse this generation. I might as well just lie down and give up right here. I answered the call with a sweet tone. "Sir, please let me know how I can help. Go to the apartment and bring a book here to school for me." I glanced at the man still lying on the ground, who looked a bit resentful, and hesitated for a moment. "Sir, I'm currently dealing with something here." His tone was cold as he spoke softly. "I have a matter I need to talk to my father about suddenly." "Sir, I'll be there right away." In the days that followed, every time I tried to make an excuse, he'd bring up needing to talk to Landon, and I always ended up giving in. There was even one night when Martin called me over to fix a pipe at his place. As soon as I pushed the door open, I saw a scene of a young man freshly out of the bath. If Martin's father weren't so opposed to such things, I might have thought he was doing it on purpose to catch my attention. Thinking that, I raised the wrench in my hand. My eyes were firm, and my voice was steady. "Sir, which pipe isn't sealing properly?" Martin said nothing as he walked toward me with long strides. He leaned in close and spoke softly. "What do you think went wrong?" I felt my ears growing warm. A sudden thought struck me. "I've got it. Probably the bathroom pipe wasn't sealing properly after you started your shower. I'll fix it right away." I couldn't help but feel proud of my quick thinking, completely missing the dark look on Martin's face. I hurried into the bathroom without a word and came back empty-handed. "Master, there's nothing wrong with your bathroom pipe." Martin clenched his teeth and said, "Exactly, once you showed up, the pipe fixed itself." I was completely confused, but Martin quickly ushered me out the door. The door slammed shut in front of me without a word, and I thought I could barely hear Martin mutter something under his breath. "Idiot. Huh. Was that really directed at me?" Early the next morning, I hadn't even had a chance to think much about yesterday when I got called in by my boss on the phone, thinking I was about to be given an important task. I stood in the office with determination. "Boss, what do you need me to do?" Landon didn't say anything, just kept studying me while murmuring quietly under his breath. But he was speaking so softly I couldn't make out what he said. "Boss?" Landon snapped back to attention, straightening up with a serious expression. "There's actually something I need you to handle. I'm getting into a big deal right now, and I want you to act as my son's personal bodyguard for a while." Huh? The sudden shift in direction left me completely confused. Personal bodyguard? "Boss, you're not willing. If you look after my son properly, I can focus on my business without worry. What's wrong with that?" Meeting his serious gaze, I felt 1,000 hesitations welling up inside me. But in the end, I had no choice but to agree. "All right then, go find Martin right away." Yes. It wasn't until I got to school that I found out Martin had skipped class. After learning where he was from his close friends, I headed straight for the bar. His friends were glaring at my angry back as they huddled together. "Do you think Martin's plan will actually work?" "Not sure, but I hope he gets lucky." As soon as I walked into the bar, I spotted Martin right away. He was curled up in a booth, with an empty bottle pile on the table in front of him. I leaned closer and caught the strong smell of alcohol. I couldn't help but frown. "Martin, wake up!" I nudged him with my foot, annoyed. But he didn't react at all. I quietly leaned in close to his ear and whispered, "Your dad's here." Well, still nothing. He must really be out of it. Just as I was trying to figure out how to get Martin home, my gaze suddenly froze in place. Martin seemed to have a surprisingly calm demeanor while asleep, resting quietly. His long lashes and lips slightly stained with wine looked softly flushed. He looked like a true sleeper in perfect stillness. Suddenly, a voice broke the silence. "Franklin." I looked up, puzzled. Martin still had his eyes tightly closed, as if the voice I just heard was only a trick of my imagination. "Franklin." Another call came. Martin's lips moved slightly, and I leaned in closer to catch what he was saying. But then my foot slipped, and our lips brushed against each other. I jerked away as if shocked by electricity. To avoid an awkward situation, I had a couple of guys escort him home, and I made a quick exit myself. After seeing Martin again, my restless mind had finally calmed down. Martin didn't bring up what happened the night before when he woke up, and I secretly felt relieved, but he seemed completely unfazed by my arrival, almost as if he'd been expecting it all along. Still, he kept giving me the cold shoulder, and I couldn't help but think he was acting out of mood. But why would he be upset with me? I couldn't figure it out. Truly, couldn't. But being Martin's bodyguard was actually pretty easy. Other than that one night, his daily routine was almost too perfect. So disciplined it felt unreal. School, homework, meals, sleep. The only thing that ever bothered me was when he'd come out of the shower without putting on a shirt. But other than that, I couldn't find a single bad habit in him. I count down the days, hoping Master Martin's business would wrap up soon so I could get back to my post sooner. But I never expected that just when I was letting my guard down, something happened to Martin. That morning I overslept, and by the time I woke up, Martin had already gone to school. Thinking about the task my boss had assigned, I quickly got dressed and grabbed a piece of toast before heading straight for school. When I arrived at school, it just happened to be break time. I could go straight to the building where Martin was having class and wait for him after school. I was chewing on my bread, staring in shock at the thick crowd ahead of me. Goodness, why are people from the nearby sports institute getting into it with Martin? I heard it's because he likes a girl who recently handed him a love letter. No wonder things got heated. Hearing the gossip from the onlookers, my eyes widened in sudden alarm. I threw down my bread and pushed through the crowd with effort, rushing inside. Inside, it was a chaotic fight involving four people, though really, Martin was outnumbered 3-1. Martin usually stayed in shape, So even though fighting 3 at once was tough, he managed to hold his own. Realizing they couldn't win against Martin, the 3 exchanged a quick glance. One of them quietly moved around behind Martin. When I saw the large stone in his hand flying straight at Martin, I didn't hesitate. I jumped in front of him. The stone hit the back of my head, and I winced from the pain. Reaching up, my hand came away covered in blood. Oh no! I'm afraid of blood. My eyes rolled back, and I collapsed to the ground. Martin heard the noise and turned around. His eyes flashed with fury when he saw me lying unconscious. He knocked down the 2 others instantly, then kicked the one who threw the stone hard in the leg. They were just students. Seeing what happened, they panicked and quickly ran off. When I opened my eyes again, the first thing I saw was a fuzzy head. My fingers twitched slightly, and Martin immediately looked up. His expression was full of concern. "Franklin, how are you feeling? Is there anywhere else that hurts?" I didn't even bother answering him. My attention was caught by the injury on his face. The silence lasted for 2 seconds. Then my sharp voice rang out through the room. "Your face! What happened?" There was a bruise on Martin's lower lip, and a bandage covered his eyebrow. It wasn't anything serious, but if the boss of that group found out about this, was it those 3 again? "Wait here. I'm going to take care of them," I said, pulling back the blanket and trying to get out of bed. Martin quickly grabbed me and pulled me back onto the bed. "Lie back down. I've already dealt with them. Just a minor injury. It'll heal soon." His voice grew heavier as he spoke. "You're the one who's acting reckless. How could you charge right at him when he had a rock in his hand?" My confidence dropped, and I muttered quietly, "It was only because of you." Unexpectedly, Martin's expression softened in a way I'd never seen before. He reached out and gently touched my cheek. His voice soft. "I worry about you too." I instantly pulled the blanket over my head and peeked out again, playing innocent. "Huh? What did you say?" Martin looked at me with a mix of exasperation and patience. I wonder if Martin might have had a change of heart. In the days that followed, our roles completely switched. Martin took care of me with great attention and concern. That's when I realized I'd actually suffered a moderate concussion from being hit by that stone. Martin took the chance to tease me a bit. "You're the second in command of this gang, and yet you're not very tough at all." My sense of professionalism was challenged, and I got so annoyed that I grabbed a pillow. I pressed it over my ears and silently repeated to myself, "Can't hear you, can't hear you." Luckily, my injury wasn't serious. After I recovered, I got a message from the boss telling me it was time to return. While Martin wasn't around, I happily packed up my things and left without saying goodbye. Seeing the boss again made me feel like it had been ages since we last met. "Boss, what big task do you have for me this time?" His usual serious expression softened a little, as if my eager attitude had somehow warmed him up. "Just nothing much. I'm planning to have Martin go on a matchmaking meeting." "A matchmaker? Really, boss? The young master's only 20. The boss chuckled. "He's old enough. Better settle down early and put everyone's mind at ease. Help me pick someone suitable. Then tell Martin when it's decided. He's been stubborn for a while. You'll have to keep an eye on him to make sure he shows up." I couldn't quite explain why, but a strange heaviness settled in my chest. Distracted and lost in thought, I completely missed the amused look on the boss's face as he watched me. I took the photos the boss had given me and went back to Martin's place. As soon as I finished telling him what the boss wanted, Martin gave me a cold stare. "You want me to go on a matchmaking meeting?" I pulled my shoulders in slightly, carefully adding, "The boss said so. You have to go. If not, I won't be able to finish my task." Before I could finish speaking, Martin once again had me escorted out the door. After the awkward parting, Martin didn't message me for several days, but I couldn't help thinking about Martin. I wondered why he was upset, and whether he'd finally gone to the blind date after all. Lost in thought, my younger brother lightly tapped me on the shoulder from behind, grinning mischievously. "Brother Jiang, you're lost in thought. Could it be love? I raised my fist as if to hit him, then something crossed my mind, and I pulled back, asking, Oliver, I have a friend who was called in the middle of the night to help fix a pipe. The person who got injured took good care of them afterward. But when my friend suggested they go on a date, that person got upset. What do you think that means? Oliver's smile widened even more, and he drawled the words with mock seriousness. I have a friend. Brother Jiang. You sure do have a lot of friends. After he finished speaking, my fist, though I had pulled it back, still landed on him. Oliver looked utterly miserable as he explained to me, Brother Jiang, you're really missing the point here. A guy helping someone fix a pipe at night after they got hurt and showing care. Then when asked to go on a date, he gets upset. Clearly, there's more going on than meets the eye. My mind was still processing what he said, but my mouth shot back before I could think. You're the one who's too straightforward. Oliver pointed at himself with his index finger. Huh. I'm literally just a straightforward guy. At that moment, my phone screen lit up. Martin's message appeared right there. I didn't even care to keep playing around with him anymore. I grabbed the jacket off the couch and stood up quickly. Once I stepped outside, I finally unlocked my phone to take a closer look at the message from Martin. Earlier, seeing his name had made me jump up without even reading what he'd sent. Now that I could see it clearly, I gripped my phone tightly, my eyes burning with frustration. I threw a few quick combos into the air, but it still didn't ease the strange tension building inside me. Damn it. Martin actually wants me to bring him a few packs of cigarettes. Ugh. 10 minutes later, I was standing at Martin's front door. Well, I didn't really want to come here, but you know how it is. You can't say no to a young master's request. Took several deep breaths to calm down. Then I raised my hand and entered the code. The first time I came to Martin's place, he had already given me the access code, but since I couldn't remember it, he changed it to my birthday instead. A familiar string of numbers typed in. Then the door beeped softly and slid open. Martin lounged lazily on the sofa. He turned to see me and gave a playful grin. No way, no way. Could it really be what I'm thinking? Given Martin's identity and the situation right now, I'd have taken control in a heartbeat. Even though I figured out his hidden intention, I couldn't help but feel a little thrilled inside. But living, there's nothing more precious than that. Far more meaningful than sleeping with someone handsome. In an instant, the bag in my hand felt suddenly hot to the touch. I dropped it without hesitation and sprinted away. I thought I'd moved fast enough, but before I'd gone far, Martin had already caught up with one long stride. Before this, I'd always taken pride in being nearly 6 feet tall. Yet right now, standing beside Martin, I suddenly felt a little tiny. He lifted me onto his shoulder effortlessly, one hand firmly holding my waist in place. I watched the door close in front of me. Realizing Martin was actually going through with it, I felt both nervous and secretly excited. The long night had just begun. We were only starting our story. Later, I casually brought up the topic of us to Martin. I couldn't tell if he truly didn't understand or was pretending not to. Either way, he never gave me a clear answer. It would be dishonest to say I wasn't disappointed. One day, Landon sent me a message. Franklin, don't you think the two of them make a great pair? Then Landon sent over a photo. The picture showed Martin with an unfamiliar woman. She was very striking, and even just from the image you could sense her elegant presence. They were standing close together, both smiling warmly. The messages kept coming. The young man finally seems to have someone he's really interested in. Miss Shen from the Shuns. She's quite a good match. He even mentioned wanting to settle things down soon. You've been with me for so long. Anyone special you're interested in? I'll help make it happen. My chest felt like it was being squeezed by a heavy hand, and I could barely catch my breath. No way, why should I be the one feeling this way? Martin, you're not getting away with hurting me, and definitely not anyone else's heart. Coincidentally, the name of that shop was exactly what was shown in the photo sent by the boss. I looked up the shop's name and hailed a taxi straight to the place. As I got off the car, I happened to see Martin and Miss Shin walking out together, chatting happily, although Jiangqing had just entered autumn. The nighttime air was still quite chilly. To add to it, a gust of evening wind blew past, making me shiver involuntarily. It was only then that I realized how rushed I had been when leaving. I'd only worn a thin short-sleeve shirt. As I looked up, Martin had already taken off his jacket and handed it to Ivy. Ivy smiled gently as she accepted it. The chilly evening air made me shiver, but a sudden surge of anger welled up inside me. Without thinking about dignity, I stepped forward and gave Martin a sharp reprimand. Afterward, I felt a bit regretful. After all, he was the boss's son. But what if he is? He's still a deceitful man. Deserves to be called out. The more I thought about it, the angrier I became. Without hesitation, I gave him another firm response. Afterward, I turned to Miss Shen and said, "Ivy, Martin isn't trustworthy. Don't believe his words or agree to a betrothal with him." Ivy looked slightly puzzled, as if she didn't understand what I was saying. I wanted to explain further, but before I could, Martin spoke first. Martin spoke before I could, offering a soft apology to her. "Sorry, Ivy, I'll have someone else handle the rest. I need to take care of something at home right now." Ivy gave a gentle smile, indicating she wasn't bothered. He took my arm and led me to the car. I stayed silent, angry, while Martin drove without a word. I stared at his focused profile, wishing I could burn through it with my eyes. When we arrived at Martin's house, he pulled me into a tight embrace, our eyes locking, and I couldn't help but notice the deep warmth in his gaze. I tried to look away, feeling awkward, but he gently but firmly turned my face back toward him. "Give me an explanation." "Explain what?" Martin couldn't help but laugh at me, gritting his teeth as he went on, publicly accusing me of being a bad guy. "What explanation do you even need?" Seeing him come at me like this, I punched his chest hard, my voice breaking with tears as I spoke. "Are you really not a bad guy? You were with me and then went to meet the Shin family's daughter, Martin. I never want to see you again." Martin froze for a moment when he saw me crying. He gently wiped my tears away, his voice softening. "Who told you I went on a meeting? It was just a business partner. My dad sent me to talk things over. Besides, the Shin family's daughter already has an fiancé. If her fiancé heard what you just said, that would be hard to explain." My crying slowed down. "Fiancé?" Martin pulled out his phone and held it up in front of me. On the screen was the Shun family's daughter's social media post. The background showed her hugging another girl. "But the boss said you went on a meeting." Martin listened to my words, dropped his phone, then reached for mine, unlocking it with a quick swipe. His eyes scanned through the chat history, and his expression clearly said one thing: "You're really clueless." Realizing I'd wrongly accused Martin, and remembering how I'd slapped him twice, I couldn't help but feel guilty. Martin gave a stubborn, cold stare. "Make it up to me." Understanding his hint, I blushed and leaned in toward him. The tension in the air suddenly spiked when the door swung open unexpectedly. Martin didn't stop, and I looked up in surprise to see a familiar face. I reacted instinctively, shoving Martin back hard. He lost his balance and fell to the floor. I stammered out an explanation. "Bro, do you believe me when I say we were just talking and getting close?" That weak excuse made me want to slap myself. Martin said with a hint of annoyance. "All right, Dad, you scared him." The older guy glared at him in frustration. "You little troublemaker. If it weren't for me giving you a boost, would you even be this far along? I'm here to tell you, you've got the person you want now, and it's time to take on family responsibilities. Adam and I are going on our honeymoon, so you'd better step up." After saying that, his expression softened. "Franklin, I know you're a good kid, so if this little rascal ever gives you trouble, just let me know. I'll make sure things are fair." Landon finished and left arm in arm with the handsome man by the door. I stood there stunned, pointing at their disappearing backs. "Them?" Martin let out a slow, weary sigh. From Martin, I finally learned the full truth of everything. Martin had once happened to see me jumping up and down in the bathroom, cheering that I'd become number 3. He said he'd never seen anyone so oblivious before. Something about it made him find me oddly endearing. After that, whenever he came to visit Landon, he'd always make a point of running into me by chance, but I was only focused on the glow and buzz inside me. I never noticed how worn out he looked. Later, when I mistakenly took revenge for my cousin, Martin saw me say Landon was homophobic, and then act really nervous around him, so he decided not to resist at all and just went along with it. The incident by the pipe was his doing on purpose, and he wasn't drunk during the bar event either. As it turned out, Landon wasn't homophobic at all. Martin was actually adopted by him. The reason I thought he was homophobic was because of one time with that handsome man, Adam. Adam went to Landon's office, but was firmly asked to leave. I heard the boss shouting angrily after he left. I heard from others that this guy used to be well known in certain circles for being quite carefree and flamboyant. After that, I became extremely cautious and kept my true feelings hidden. I was terrified that the next person to be harshly reprimanded might just be me. After hearing that, I slapped him again. I was wondering back when I was in the hospital, how you managed to take down 3 guys alone, yet let my 2 allies pin you down so easily, so it was all pretend, right? Martin smiled and gently held onto my hand. Yeah, I've been planning this for a while.